Welcome to FESIG, Free Energy Special Interest Group, where science meets spirituality in the quest for truth and knowledge to free humanity and transform this planet into a paradise.
Hi everyone, hi, this is Crystal. Welcome everyone to Physics 112th meeting. Today is the 3rd of May, and we have amongst us regulars, our R&D team members, friends of Physics, and free energy enthusiasts, developers, and well, inventors. All the same, because we have a technology session in this meeting. We are going to see the agenda for today's meeting, so bear with me. I'm going to share screen now. Okay, here we are. So FESIG is a free energy special interest group, and I have here with me my co-chairs, Dr. Fres Frezel and Pontus Hefger. Fres is the chief teacher of our R&D teams, and Pontus, our physics chief teacher in technologies, and Pontus is the head of R&D for physics. James apparently is not here now, but he may jump in later.
I'm here.
Oh, James is here. Yeah. So we are all on the physics board. James, Fres, Pontus, and I. So today, it's so good to have you here. It's complete. Yeah. All right. So our platform here is good for everyone because we don't charge a fee or anything like that. But we do hope that you will pay for it if you can, because it costs money to run this thing, and to have everyone here and to do all the recordings. And you could see at the beginning how complicated it is, and we have technical issues and stuff like that, and it costs money to pay subscriptions for Zoom, Mega, and all the facilities that we've been using to bring this to you. Well, we have been getting by with our own money, our own pockets. Pontus and Fres has been buying equipment for the last 7 years or more to keep going. And finally, we're going to get there for you, because we have been consistently working non-stop to bring what we are having the vision to bring. Okay. Right. So the first session speaker is Dr. Benny Johansson, Ph.D. in experimental clinical chemistry and science in biochemistry. He's a senior research scientist at Scandinavian International University, and sorry, I can't really see that. Örebro, yeah. Dr. Johansson has previously worked at the Institute of Clinical Chemistry at SUS Malmö, Sweden, and at AstraZeneca. He will be talking about his discoveries on magnetic water and his applied nanofusion technology, yeah, biodisk, and other important inventions that he has recently come up with, all moving towards vitality for the betterment of mankind. And then we have our second session speaker, Dr. Richard Aes, PhD, a 4th generation Dutch based in Africa, an inventor of sorts as well. He's a professor at some universities and an entrepreneur who brought the first ozone pollution remediation system, recently invented an off-grid electrical power that scales. So folks, it's very exciting. So let's look forward towards these presentations. Now, I would like to introduce Dr. Johansson properly, so bear with me, folks, because you need to know who is doing the presentation soon. Right, Dr. Benny Johansson is the Chief Scientific Officer and co-founder of Akloma Bioscience AB, PhD in experimental clinical chemistry and a master's degree of science in biochemistry. He's a senior research scientist at Scandinavian International University at Örebro. Dr. Johansson has previously worked at the Institute of Clinical Chemistry at SUS Malmö, Sweden, and AstraZeneca. Akloma Bioscience AB is a research and development company providing quality improving technologies for the food processing and medical industries. The company is exploring new medical approaches to treat inflammatory vascular diseases, such as abdominal aortic aneurysm and arteriosclerosis, dedicated to delivering breakthrough solutions in healthcare, addressing medical, smart packaging, and functional water research worldwide. The company is based on more than 15 years of scientific research, where Aklotech is the core technology behind all scientific projects and is patent registered. Applied nanofusion technology, biodies moving towards vitality for the betterment of mankind will be talked about as well. So there you go. Over to you, Dr. Johansson. You can start your presentation now. Thank you.
Slide. I usually have very fun when I see it. Yeah, what about water? We know that water consists of one oxygen and two hydrogen atoms, and that the hydrogen atoms are linking to its neighbors, and there is a formation of extended water clusters, and they could be ordered or they could be less ordered actually. And we'll look deeper into that. I have 3 photos on at the top of my first slide here, and we all know that the big ices around Earth is melting down very rapidly at the moment. And we also know that information is stored in both ice and water. So does that mean that the information stored in these ices around Earth will be relieved and have an impact on life on Earth? We don't know about that, but we can expect something coming on actually. And then we have the pollution of water all around Earth. And does that mean that we have to close down ancient information which has been available for a very long time? And the third issue here is the man-made radiation. During the last 100 years, we have created a lot of electromagnetic radiation from radio waves up to the frequencies of radioactive compounds. And all of that is actually absorbed by water. So what does that mean to us? Down left, I have a human being, and we constitute approximately 70% water according to weight, and 99% of the molecules are made up of water. So we are more or less water beings. Just for comparison, I have 2 vegetables here, with tomatoes and cucumber. It's approximately 95% water according to the number of molecules. And then we have the jellyfish.
Benny,
yeah.
Want to share?
Yes, I talked about the photos on the upper part here. And we have the central water molecule here, and we have the oxygen and the 2 hydrogens. And we're going to talk about the hydrogens because they are strongly related to how water molecules are built and in a huge arrangement, and both in an ordered way and a less orderly way. And down left here we have humans, and the water content is, according to weight, about 70%, and it's 99% of the molecules in the human body. So we're more or less made up from water. And just for comparison, I have 2 vegetables, 1 tomato and a cucumber. They consist of 95% water by molecules. And the jellyfish is 99% water by weight, and it's almost made up from water. And compared to seawater, which is 97%, there is more water in the jellyfish than in the sea where it's swimming around. And I also raise a question here: why are living beings a water solution? Could it be that water is a part of consciousness? As soon as we have some kind of matter, there is also consciousness when it comes to living objects. So one question here is actually quite important, and that is to try to understand if consciousness is actually liquid water when it comes to living systems. I have a video clip here. Let's see if it works. No. There it is. It's the wind coming in across the water surface, and you can see that there is a dancing vortex moving from the left to the right. And the vortex is made up of two forces. I will show it once more. One gravitational force and one levitational or informational force. And that also means that the seawater on Earth is continuously informed by information coming from space or from everywhere, actually. And that we can consider the seawater on Earth as some kind of consciousness of the Earth itself. And I will take it even further because I have a small carafe here. I will show it on the next slide. This carafe here is built up from something which is known as projective geometry, and that is geometry of the nature itself. And I have a flower bud here. You can see it inside this bowl of the carafe. And here is another example of pine cone. It's made up of gravitational, anti-gravitational forces. You can see it's moving around the spine like this here. In the other direction, it goes here. And this actually shows that there is, in the cross points, there is a formation of a seed. And that is formation of life. So the shape here of this pine cone, actually a way to translate life into shape. And if we consider the shape of this carafe, we actually can consider this water as some kind of a healing water, and have a huge impact on living humans. We got, as you can see here, we got some kind of projection of a lotus flower in the center of the carafe, and after a minute or two, we also get this phase. I call it a quantum blueprint. And it actually supports us in a way that we were quite surprised when we actually saw it. Could it be some kind of a extraterrestrial that is actually projected itself into the water? Can you see the title here? I think it's quite difficult to see it myself.
Yes, we can see.
We can see it, Benny. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good. Yes. As we said, water is an absorber or pick up energy, and it converts it into what is called high density energy, and that means electrons. And these electrons can be used in different ways. And it all depends on the water molecule, and especially the hydrogen atoms, because they can move in different ways. They can be stretched symmetrically or stretched asymmetrically, can bend, or they can oscillate. And that is on the physical level. And inside the molecule, we also have a magnetic field. So the water molecule, or the water actually works as an interface between electromagnetic and material fields. And that is aligned with the quantum electrodynamic theory. And that also shows that the hydrogen bond actually can work in 2 dimensions, both on the physical level, the 4th dimensional level, but also in the quantum level. And that also means, for instance, if we have polluting chemicals in water, they can be removed in different ways, but you still have the frequencies. They will remain in the water, and they will be stored in the quantum part of the water. It's possible to erase it by crystals and sacred geometry, etc. You can also introduce new information in water by different means. I will come back to that later. Liquid water is not one liquid, it's actually two liquids. And it's called low density water or high density water. I think if I can put this away, like this. And the low density fraction is approximately 20% of any water on Earth, and the high density fraction is approximately 80%. The low density water can be expanded, and that is what's going on in living objects. In the low density water, the water molecules are organized in a tetrahedral shape, and they build up something which is known as coherent domains, and it could be up to 6 million water molecules, and each water molecule has its own resonance state. And that means that, each molecule can actually absorb energy from different parts of the wavelength range of ordinary light. It could be both visible light and non-visible light. So there is a huge capacity to store energy in water on different levels. There is also a debate going on if a coherent domain is a spherical structure or if it's a vortex-like structure. I'll come back to that later. I also want to mention briefly that something which is known as fourth phase of water, and I know that Gerald Pollack has been talking here before, and he's actually the guy who introduced this fourth phase of water. And I just would like to say that this fourth phase of water is also comparable to these coherent domains according to the scientists behind it, and it's a group in Italy led by Emilio Del Gudice. He's not with us anymore, but his colleagues is still working on it. I will not go into any discussion about it, but there is some kind of a relation between fourth phase of water and coherent domains. When it comes to more complex systems like living objects, living subjects, no, I can't see the upper part of it here. Wait, sorry. We are talking about a super-coherent system, and that means that these coherent domains, they are operating together in a biological system. And these small balls, the red balls here, is entering the outer phase of the coherent domain, where there is a chemical or catalyzing a biochemical reaction, and the result will be some kind of product. It could be the green ball here, and then it enters into another coherent domain. And it's more or less a biofeedback system for a lot of biochemicals reactions going on simultaneously, for instance, in a living cell. And here's another way to show it, that we have a coherent state of water where each water molecule represents a specific level. And each level here can be divided into supercoherent levels. It's like a fractal tree, actually. That is what is building up a human living system as its holographic view. And it's all self-stabilized by cold vortexes, because the excited state is kept together by a self-trapped electromagnetic field inside each coherent domain. I have just one thing I would like to show, because it's quite remarkable. It was presented by John Lorber. He's a neurologist from UK, and he presented this in Science in 1980. And the title of his article was, "Is Your Brain Really Necessary?" And what he found was he had a young, healthy student coming to his clinic or office, and they did a brain scan on him, and he found that there was no brain tissue, just a small line up here you can see along the skull, and there was no endocrine glands, and he was completely healthy. So what is going on here? Well, could it be that the cerebral fluid, that is the water of the brain, that this water in some way can replace an ordinary brain? That's just a question mark. And could it be that water actually can replace physical matter in this way? It's quite remarkable. And he reports that after this first individual, there was another 500 person coming to his clinic the year that followed with the same abnormality. And this is still a medical question. It has been known since the beginning of the 19th century, but it's just closed down. No one can explain it. Impact of intentions on water. We all know about Masaru Emoto, I guess. We have heard of him before. And he has studied the impact of information on water in different ways. And here is just two examples where he has written "you fool" on a label. And you can see there is a mess of ice. There is no structure whatsoever. And here is another word written on the label, "thank you," and you get a very nice ice crystal. And what is important here is the intention behind it. It's perhaps not the label itself, but the intention behind the written intention, the written word here, "you fool" or "you thank you." And I will take this even further. Vida Austin, I met her in Germany last autumn at a water meeting, and she uses a completely different approach. She has small petri dishes. I don't know. Can you see it here? It's a plastic dish like this, and she filled it up with water, and you have the lid, put it on, and then she places it on the top of the photo and leave it there for half an hour, and uses the intention to transfer the information of the photo into the water, and then put the water into the freezer for another 30 minutes, and she gets, as you can see, more or less a copy in the formation of ice, and you have the face here to the left. And here is another example of ginkgo leaves, and they are more or less completely copied to the formation of ice. So here we can also talk about the conscious water. But the important thing here is the intention behind it, not just the photo, but the intention. Some other examples. These are red blood cells, and they are drawn from a healthy volunteer after being focusing on the emotion of fear, or experience the emotion of fear. And it's red blood cell captured by contrast on a contrast microscope, and it was originally from a video clip, and you can see that the red blood cells, they moved irregularly, and they are quite separated here. And here is another situation. It's actually the same individual a couple of days later. It's focused on golden divine, or experience unconditional love. And the blood cells appear completely different. They actually, some of them are heart-shaped, and they have a tip on them. They are not circular anymore. But the most remarkable observation here is that the white blood cells start to communicate with coherent light. In the upper situation here, there is, you can say that the individual is more or less separated from oneness. And here we have a non-local state where oneness is experienced as a connection between the individual and the universal as whole. And then we have a completely different situation within the individual, and this is related to the state of water. It turns into this coherent state. some other examples of organized water. Flowing water bridge was introduced by Elmer Fuchs, a scientist from Holland. They put 2 electrodes into the beakers, they fill up with water. It's 10,000 volts between them. And then the water jumps between the beakers, and there is formation of this flowing water bridge. It's built up from a vortex, so there is water flowing in both directions. And as you can see, one is empty, filled up here, and it turns out to fill up in the beaker to the left. Another example from Gerald Pollack, he has suspended carboxylated polystyrene particles in water, and here we have this exclusion zone or the coherent state, and we perhaps remember the running lizard, that there is some kind of relation with this water state and the possibility to run on it if you have feeds which are quite suitable for the process. And then I will go to some of my own scientific studies. We have, as I said in the beginning, I work with 2 Fibonacci circles. And they are made up from a silver ink. And we have, it actually forms a fractal structure when it's printed on the plastic behind it. And it's printed here in this banana-like shape of a patch, which is applied on behind the naked area of the hairless area behind the ear, and to treat tinnitus patients. The second project is related to flow forms, and it's built up from ceramics with a very specific surface area. I will come back to that soon. And the third project is related to BioCarafe and bio bottles made up from projective geometry. And I have one example of that in the upper right corner. And we have the carafe shape here. I should also say that all shapes here, they have the same impact on water, actually. You can actually use any of them and you will get the same result. And here is the final product in the shape of the carafe. And we have also, we're working right now on biodolomer material formed into bottles. As you can see, the intention is actually to replace all plastic bottle on Earth. And it's quite possible to use this material. It's made up from calcium carbonate and some plant oils. And it's completely biodegradable and biocompostable. It takes two weeks to turn them into soil. Some words about the Antinitus patch. Here we have the patch. It acts as a Fourier raster, which means that it organizes chaotic light into organized light. And when it comes in contact with a biological system, there will be some kind of change. It turns into more coherent structuring. And we have done 4 clinical studies on tinnitus patients, and these are the results from the last one on 82 patients. We found that there were 30% responders, and that was evaluated for tinnitus handicap. What is called? They filled in it by and evaluated their own personal questionnaire, the tinnitus handicap questionnaire it's called. And we also done a post-market clinical follow-up on 587 responders, and there was actually a 30% sustained relief, quite in agreement with what we have done on clinical during the clinical studies. And it should also be said that there is no recommended treatment today for tinnitus, actually. So these results are quite impressive, and we know that if it's repeated, this is from a single treatment, and if the treatment is repeated, the number of responders actually are increased. And then we have the flow forms. We have the ceramic structuring here, and there is I have a photo here which shows the upper part of it, the surface, and we have the water coming in here from the top. It's pumped in from the pump is placed inside this bowl here, and it's forced into the figure 8 flow. Here we have two vortexes, one from to the left and one to the right, and we have an infrared image which actually shows what is going on. We have the temperature difference here, temperature gradient. In the center, the temperature is 1.1 degrees lower compared to the bulk volume, and somewhere in between here in the outer part of the vortex. And I just want to show you what the vortex looks like. We have this red ink here, as you can see, and these particles of the red ink are distributed only in the high density fraction of water. You can see the two forces acting here, one gravitational and one anti-gravitational force. So they're quite separated.
Benny,
yeah.
Could you repeat that, because your voice was like dropping off? Yeah, we couldn't hear you. Could you repeat, please?
I can show it.
Could you go nearer to the microphone?
It's the bandwidth.
Battery.
Okay. It's the bandwidth. Yeah. Fres, could you hear him from where you are?
It's
Because you are in the
distorted.
US.
Yeah, it's distorted.
It's
He loses
distorted.
audio when he plays the video, so he can play the video, stop it, and then talk about it. It'll do fine.
I can stop the live video to make a clear talk. Yeah. If I understand you right.
Correct.
Can I have to stop? Oh, sorry. Yeah, so the video just showed that when I added the ink to the water, it's distributed into the high density water, and the low density water is completely intact. Just to show that when the water is highly ordered, it actually in a way does not allow any compounds or solutes to enter into the phase. And just want something fun here, actually, that perhaps you know that the levitational trout, they are not swimming upstream, so they position their body in the center of the vortex, using its yields to regulate the formation of a vertical flow along its body, and then in a certain moment it shoots itself upstreams. So it's not swimming upstreams, it's actually using the anti-gravitational force by purpose. And here is the temperature gradient across the vortex here from the center to the bulk volume. You can see the zigzag-like pattern here. It's dependent on the formation of high and low density water and the temperature difference between the two in the vortex. Here is an example of where we have used just to characterize water after using the Fibonacci geometry, and we have used one drop of ordinary water, one drop of the conditioner water, and placed it on a aluminium plate minus 18 degrees centigrade, and it took, as you can see here from the infrared image, in 6 seconds to get the crystalline ice, and it took 1 minute to get amorphous glassy low density water when we have conditioned it with the technology. So it's a way to show that water and ice is completely different when it's conditioned state. And this can also be related to the Nobel Prize in Chemistry 2017, which was rewarded for the observation that when there is rapid cooling and formation of amorphous ice, there is a high resolution of the protein when studied by electron microscopy. And before this invention was done, we have this type of resolution. And we have actually an idea that not necessary to do this rapid cooling. You can use coherent water instead and get the same result. Here I have studied the infrared imaging on ordinary water to the left here and condition of water to the right in two different environments. This is hydrophilic cells and those are hydrophobic cells. And we always get a lower temperature in the conditional state dependent on the higher ordering of water. It's approximately 0.3, 0.4 degrees lower temperature here. But you can see they are quite different according to the shape. And here we have the typical pattern of an interfacial zone of low density water, and then we have the bulk volume. So obviously there is two forces acting together in a hydrophilic environment. In hydrophobic environment, it's completely different. And this is also something which is happening in living systems. We have a lot of hydrophobic amino acids on proteins and other surfaces in the body. So it could be actually that hydrophobic surface stimulates the formation of low density water. And it's completely different patterns that you can see when we use hydrophobic environments. And we get the same results with all three of the different applications we have used, the Fibonacci geometry, the projective geometry, and the flow forms. So we have the same impact on water. I should also say this was published in 2012, and last year I started started some kind of a creative process trying to understand more about the coherent domains, if they are in a spherical state or if they have this vortex-like structure. And when I looked at the old data here, we also presented accumulated data from mean values of the temperature across from all columns here from the left to the right. And it was obvious here when I looked more carefully to it that there was some kind of ordering here dependent on the difference in colors. And we can also see from the peak height here there are high peaks and low peaks representing difference in temperature, which actually could be interpreted as some kind of spontaneous self-organization of life, of water. And it's more pronounced here in the coherent state. You can see that we have much smaller structuring with low and high temperatures, and the difference in peak heights between high and low temperature is more pronounced than in the control. So it seems quite obvious here that there is a spontaneous formation of ordering in still water as well in vertical water when there is some kind of movement. And then we have to talk about the conscious state of water actually, when there is a self-regulating ordering. Here is another example of just to characterize ordinary water. We have a spray of water droplets added to a metal plate, and then we took a photo, and as you can see here with the ordinary water, there is a random distribution of water droplets, and we have to remember then that each water droplet has a negative charge on its surface, the positive charge in its center, which means that they will repel each other. In this case here, and in condition of water, there is formation of columns, and there is an empty space around them. So obviously there must be some kind of charge separation with a positive side and a negative side. But we also have to remember in a non-local environment, there is gravity shielding. So this could also be a consequence of a shielding of gravity, even though that we are performing these studies in a lab under normal circumstances in a unique environment where we have non-local forces. There is no impact of gravity, even though it's around us. It's quite impressive. We also know that there is a reservoir of free electrons in this type of water. So these are very, very early studies. We wanted to see if there could be a formation of a spontaneous electrode potential by, we use silver electrodes, put them into a beaker with a condition of water, and they were left standing for 3-4 days. And then there was, as you can see here, formation of a spontaneous formation of a cathode and an anode, and the formation of a negative electrode potential around 50 millivolt. And when we shifted the two electrodes, it turns into a positive electrode potential instead. It's the same level, 50 millivolts approximately. And here we have the green line with this ordinary water. So it's quite possible actually to use this energy to produce electrical current. Today we can reach about 0.5 volt in the same system, and we also know that we can increase the number of coherent domains by different means now. So maybe in the future we will start to think to make a battery of it all. Yeah, we have also done clinical studies in healthy volunteers drinking ordinary water and low density water, and they have been evaluated by ECGs, ordinary ECGs, and we have looked at time domain, frequency domain parameters, but also the impact on heart rate dynamics by using calculations of mono multifractal analysis of the heart rate. And what we found here was that after drinking control or low density water, there is a significant decrease in heart rate, and this is actually expected from early studies. And when we look more deeply into the frequency parameters when drinking controlled water, we found that there was a decrease in the ratio between very low frequencies and total power of the heart, and this indicates that the heart does not like this water at all. We actually had the opposite case in low density water, where there was an increase in the ratio between very low frequencies and the total power of the heart. And we also found an increase in both total power and the very low frequencies, indicating that the signal which is makes the heart beat actually is more available after drinking low density water. And this was confirmed by the significant rise in both mono and multifractal heart rate dynamics. And when we looked we did a Fourier analysis on group data, we found that there were unique frequencies in the millihertz range identified in low density water, which were completely absent in controlled water. And this has been seen to be, according to literature data, as a profound indicator of health and well-being. We also did a study on urine, just to see if the entire body is exposed to 1 glass of water only. And if it's distributed into the urine, we know that the entire body is actually affected by the water. And this was actually the case. We found by infrared imaging here that there was a significant decrease in temperature towards the control, and there was a significant increase in the fractal ordering of urine, which actually shows us that the entire body is affected by this type of water. So with that said, I would like to thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, you can ask them. I have my email here, and you can also find more information on the 2 websites here. The Cubio.com is only in Swedish, the other one is in English. But you will have the references in English on both websites. So thank you for your attention.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much, Benny. Okay, I think you need to stop share now, so I can pass the microphone over to the co-chair. Yes, thank you so much. It's so good to have the opportunity to see your presentation and hear you talk, Benny. It's so good. My goodness, brilliant findings and inventions you got there. Over to you, Fres. I'm sure you have burning questions all lined up.
Thank you much, Crystal. In the beginning of your talk, you were showing the water molecule, the HHO, and the expansion and contraction. And many of us understood that the hydrogen molecules normally would flex towards and away from each other in the case of any outside stimuli. But you did show in it that there actually is an elongation and contraction between the hydrogen molecule and the oxygen molecule. So you end up with basically two different planes of frequency, almost at 90 degrees when you take a look at the short vectors of it. Am I interpreting your diagram correctly, Benny?
Yeah, they are flexible, completely flexible. They can be stretched and oscillating at the same time. It's very complex, actually, but that is also why they can absorb energy of any kind coming from the environment and store it, actually, and convert it into, as I said, high density energy. And that is actually electrons that can be used to perform work where it's needed in the cell, or as we can see, we can also use it to produce electrical power.
Excellent. Some of us have done work with frequencies in freezing water and gone between water that hasn't been boiled, so there's suspended oxygen molecules in the water, and then when you freeze it, we get these cloudy patterns when they freeze in volumes of water, and depending on how we expose them, either by thought or by color, or just setting it next to frequencies, it changes the property of the water and how it freezes in the freezer. So that's interesting. I didn't realize that even on that very small droplet, you would have that significant of a change in the two types of water, to where it's almost a cubic shape versus a more spherical frozen droplet instantaneous. I found that
yes, you can scale it down actually to any size, and you will find the same response, whatever you're looking at.
One of our free energy and electrical researchers is here with us today, Master Ivo. Ivo, if you would unmute yourself, you had a question for Benny. Ivo, can you unmute yourself? Okay.
Ivo sometimes have a problem with his microphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know he's short on time, and I always enjoy.
Oh, he said he will be leaving soon. yes.
Yeah, always enjoy when Ivo has questions. So it was like I was going directly to him quickly.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, Benny, that Michiko Hayashi, who is the successor of Dr. Emoto Masaru, has been one of our speakers as well. She was talking about his work, because she continued from there when he left. Yeah. And also she was telling me that she's working closely with Gerald Pollack. Yeah, Dr. Pollack. And Dr. Pollack had been quite a supporter and motivator for her. Yeah. On the fourth phase of water that he came out with, he guided her on continuing Emoto's work. Yeah.
It has been, I know that Masaru Emoto's work has been questioned from a scientific viewpoint in many years, because they don't consider his methods as scientific.
She did complain. She did complain about that. Yeah. Yeah.
But it can be changed by repeating it in a proper way. It's quite simple, actually, to make science.
Yeah, and you did it. You did it, Benny. I mean, you fill in that gap, because you actually have proven through your research, by doing this scientific studies in coming up with pictures and all that you can show us through the microscopic level on the assessment of the tap water versus the what you call that, boiled water, and what's the other water that you were assessing? Filtered water, yes. And you were doing studies on what kind of water is fit, and bottled water as well. There's a difference, and you were telling people which one, through your scientific research studies, proven which one is more consumable, safe to drink, right, Benny?
Yeah, that's right. But I think the most important of it all is to know that water is not only one liquid, it's two. And then you can actually also understand why we get different results. Because if we have no control of the water we are working with, we cannot get any results, actually. So first you have to prove that you have a low coherent state of water, and then you can make the studies and get proper results. Otherwise, it could be just the finger in air, more or less. And it takes time also to understand that, and also to develop methods which are reliable and can be repeatable, and all that which is necessary to say it's a scientific studies.
In the two states of water that you've talked today about, is there an easy way for our listeners to create these or show the difference between these two in their own home so they can duplicate what you've done? Is there a protocol that's fairly simple?
Easy way. Well, you need, I think, you need some kind of equipment. Actually, you can. The simplest one is to freeze it, as we have shown here. Then you can separate between a water which is organized and a water which is unorganized. Vida Austin, as I also showed some photos from, and she works with her intentions. And without intention, there will be no impact on water. It's just random, more or less. Then, but to understand that our own thoughts have an impact on water, even if it's on distance from our hands and our brains, there is a response in the water on our thoughts and our intentions. And if we use that, we can actually make a change between good water and a bad water, or less good water.
In the studies of Victor Schauberger, he showed that what he called was basically a still or dead water electrically that's from sitting ponds that's not moving, or stationary water, or deep well water. The water shows up different, but when he swirls it past either rocks or through a vortice-shaped glassware, it takes on a more energetic form. It's a structured water. And I was wondering if you had worked with any of the vortice structured water similar to what Schauberger had worked with quite a few years ago.
Yes, I have some colleagues here in Sweden. They worked with Victor Schauberger many years, and or his method for many years, and they also have collaboration with other scientists around the world, who is focusing on Schauberger's or trying to understand what he did, because it's not easy to repeat what he done a long time ago. But there is a possibility actually to repeat and to understand what was going on.
Schauberger showed the electrical discharge between counter-rotating columns of water and actually used it in power generation out of two buckets, a couple of columns, an anode and cathode, let's say, two different ones. And then the 2 points would arc, because just from the swirling one clockwise and anti-clockwise around these vertical shafts. And as I said, some of the things that you were talking about today remind me very quickly of some of the work that Victor Schauberger had done. Super.
Yeah, there is correlations, of course. Yeah, you can actually reach changes in water by different means. He worked with his methods and we work with our method, but we usually get the same results because we know what we are doing, more or less.
It's like a reconfirmation, isn't it? Well done.
And I was going to call on Pontus because he's more familiar with our guest today and probably has some old questions that comes up often that we haven't covered yet. So Pontus, the floor is yours for a question or two.
Benny, I know you worked with magnetic water also, and you showed that once. Do you have something to show on that?
Magnetic water, no. I don't work with that right now, no.
No, it was a long time ago, I know.
Yeah. Now we have turned our focus on what we work with today because it's applicable to be used by many humans around Earth, and I think that is the most important thing to inform people that it's possible to, by simple means, actually, to improve the quality of water and experience the impact on the human body from it. So the more simple, I think it's also easier to reach out to get those changed on the global scale.
So true. I see we have a question in the chat. Is the resonant frequency of water 10 gigahertz?
What do you say?
Is the resonant frequency of water 10 gigahertz?
The response from a human being drinking water, and we can isolate what type of frequencies we are dealing with. They are usually in the millihertz range, as I showed here. Quite unique frequencies which are formed spontaneously and with an impact on in the same range of the human heart.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pontus.
Yeah. I don't think you have experience from extracting hydrogen from structured water as fuel.
Extracted hydrogen?
Yeah, from structured water.
You mean hydrogen ions, not hydrogen?
Extract hydrogen from structured water to use as fuel.
No, I'm not to use as fuel. No.
No.
That will be next project, I think.
Yeah.
I think
we are not there yet.
hold on, that's Dawn's question. Dawn, you're talking about another inventor's thing that uses hydrogen, extracting hydrogen from water as fuel.
Yeah. It's more like.
You mean like gas, the hydrogen gas, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another issue, I think, to use hydrogen gas. That is ordinary chemistry.
Yeah, we got other speakers talking about that at FESIG.
Yeah, of course. Yes, I understand. Yeah. But that can be done, of course, by electrolysis.
It's proven. Yeah, it had been done.
Yeah.
It's well, you know, it's Jenkins' work. Yep.
Yeah.
Walt Jenkins, who has proven that the water clean fuel can actually power up vehicles. Yeah, it's proven that. Yeah.
But I think it's more interesting to focus on the quantum energy because that is completely inexhaustible. You can use it and for you can't empty the system actually.
Yeah, And another speaker, Andrew Betty, was also doing this kind of work with his HH2, right, first?
The HH2, we take a look at separating the hydrogen or going into hydrogen oxygen extraction. They found that there was easier if they exposed the water to a electromagnetic field first, or a magnetic field first, and then extracted the HH or the HHO from it, because it's where the bonding is to the hydrogen and oxygen. If you've pre-stretched it, then the hydrogen molecules pull apart easier. And that's what preconditioning the water before separating the hydrogen and oxygen as separate gases.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, that could be. But it, on the other side, they have to put energy into the system. So
Correct.
there
Yes.
is a loss of it. Something in one end, and you have a positive result in the other end.
And I'm going to switch this around just a little bit and come at it from a different angle, a little bit closer to Crystal's field of expertise. And we're going to talk about intention imprinting on water. And several years ago, a group of my friends and I got together and we did meditation, focused meditation on a specific topic. And we were either love, the good vibrations, the healing, whatever. And there was a beaker of water that was placed between about 8 of us in a circle. And we had a drink of the water before, and it was water. It had come out of a liter bottle that we bought at the store. And within about 5 minutes of meditation, we then tested it. And the flavor of the water had changed dramatically. And what it felt like inside the body had changed. It seemed to satisfy the thirst quicker after it had been imprinted by thought. And that was just the only thing that we had done.
I can attest to that, Fred.
Yeah,
because,
I thought I'd bring it back to you.
That's why we say prayers before we start eating,
Yeah,
when
yes.
food is served. Yeah, it's a good habit, because we are charging up our food and we're getting rid of the toxicity just by saying a prayer. And we usually put our hands over, the spiritualist way of practicing the prayers before food. We always put the hand over the food, as I have taught Pontus when I visited him. I said, may the vibration of this food be raised up to my level of vibration so I can consume it safely. Thank you, in love and gratitude. And
That's
the
right.
food tastes delicious after that.
Yeah, it's quite simple actually to organize water.
Yes.
A positive attitude and meditation, that's enough actually.
Yeah.
Excellent. Crystal, do you have some more comments or questions?
Yeah, I actually wanted to point out, Benny, I'm really fascinated when you were showing the before and after pictures of the blood-water coherence. It's wow, it's amazing. Usually when scientists were showing slides, pictures of what's going on underneath the microscope, the blood, the tests of when they take some certain supplements and they like to show there's the before and after, when the blood was clumped out and all that, and after taking some supplements it just floats freely. And I thought, wow, the first picture that you were showing, the blood corpuscles were floating freely and nothing else in between. It's great. But now you're showing us, you're teaching us a different thing, that they are supposed to be closer to each other, so there's some interaction and there's a communication with the light as well. Could you tell us more about that, Benny? Could you flash back that picture of the
flashback? Yeah,
yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Something new we're learning all the time from new speakers coming over. Thank you, Benny.
You mean no, this one, I guess.
Share screen, please, Benny.
Okay.
Click on share screen, the green screen below. Yeah.
This one.
Yeah. put more light on that for us so we can understand it
Can you
better.
see it now?
Yeah, the blood-water response to on emotions. Yes, it's along the lines of what Fresh brought up as the thread in this conversation too.
Yeah. And the point here is that when you focus on or experience a emotion of love, and you also have an intention connected to golden divine or universal love or whatever. But the important is to really experience the emotion. And it's connected also to the brain and the intention behind it, that I want to experience this emotion. Then you have an intention to experience it. And what happens then is that you go from a local state of being to a non-local state of being, that you're connected to oneness. You are in a oneness condition. And here you're completely separated from it. You're isolated in your own body, and there is no connection to anything, actually.
Oh,
but
wow.
as soon as you connect emotionally, you are a non-local being. And the water turns into its non-local state spontaneously. And that's why the white blood cells start to communicate with coherent light. So the body is operating on a much higher level of existence. It's not only chemicals, it's actually energy that is performing the work in the body.
Benny, how does this coherent light between the cells suddenly appear? Is it because it comes from the thought that manifested into this light manifestation?
No, it's dependent on that the body is connected to oneness, to the entire universe, spontaneously. And the checkpoint is your emotions in the body and how you can manifest or regulate your own emotions.
Wow, so that is a physical blueprint in the material form.
Yes.
Through the thoughts, intentions,
Yeah.
and emotions. Wow,
Yeah.
isn't that fascinating? Wonderful.
If you have an intention to experience golden divine, for instance, then it will happen. But if you don't have the intention, nothing will happen.
Wow.
So as soon as you search and look for it and manifest it, then the change appears.
Wouldn't it be fascinating, Benny, if you could take this a step further, like doing a microscopic video of a group of people on one side of the screen meditating, and not meditating to start off with the first light with the blood corpuscles free flowing, separate, okay, the local state of being separated. And then when they start to meditate together, holding hands in a circle of light, meditation, for instance, and this light dots started to form and manifest and communicating with the blood corpuscles together like that. Wouldn't that be really proof of the God being in us that is
Yes, you can call it God being. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
That's the basic of it all, more or less. But what is interesting here is also, from my viewpoint, is that when the light turns on here, there is something unique happen with the water.
It is. Wow.
Because it's the water that makes this possible. The blood is one point of it, but the water is all of it, actually. Without the water in its coherent state, nothing will happen at all.
You know, of the many speakers here who spoke, and they have been showing this blood free flowing, and you're the first one who actually taken it a bit further here and showing us that there is this communication. This guy, wow, you know, it's so wonderful to have speakers like you coming in to show us step by step. And we can see the connecting dots. They're all coming together now. And Professor Florian Colcia, you must see, I will give you his video links because I've just published it. He was talking about frequencies, fractals, and mathematical equations, the perovskite crystal formation that is in his matrix equation, and all. It's so fascinating. And he actually did the cracking of the code of the God language with his mathematics. Oh, you know what? I am so privileged and honored to have all of you coming here on this platform to speak. And it really touched my heart that I could bring all of you together here. And it will be so wonderful if one day we can have the funding and we can organize a conference where you can all get together and have a real animated discussion about your findings together, because I know it will come to a convergent point where we are going to really, really meet in the middle and intersect, and eureka, we got it, you know.
You just have to pick up that intention, then it will happen, not before, not later.
Yes, of course, Benny. Thank you so much.
If you want to make that conference, you have to put on the intention to do it.
Sure, but if we do have a conference like that, would you attend?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. All right.
I've got one more along this line, and this is for our non-science viewers today. A lot of the work that we hear from you is the line of light beings. And we're kind of showing today through Dr. Benny's work that there actually is a little bit of light being generated. We also know that when we take a look at personal auras, that this is an energy that comes away from the body, not just
hold on, Fred. Sorry to stop you. I want Benny to hold on to this slide, because you know what, Fred? Pontus brought me, when I visited Sweden, to Benny's home, and Benny actually showed me this physically. This is so amazing, the quantum path of the microscopic fractal BioCarafe. Benny, I hope you don't mind if I may request, is it possible for you to show us here, all who are present here in this meeting, because you're at home and you have this with you, don't you?
The carafe, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I can show it. Yeah.
With the spotlight on. Yes, sorry, Press.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Wait, just hold on to that and then come back to it in a minute. Okay. Oh, no, Benny, can you let Fres finish first before he forgets? And then we will show your carafe. Go on then, Fres.
No, is basically the thought was we end up with auras, and some of our listeners are very good at reading people's aura. We also know Kirlian photography, where we put a low voltage charge into the person's body, just very low, that it shows up on X-ray film as an image. And it's not just the electricity that's being added, because it's very, very low voltage, but it's the interaction with the silver crystals of the X-ray film with the photographic that shows up the auras. What is interesting, and we get with our starseed viewers, they start talking about increasing the amount of light inside our bodies as light beings, to where it isn't just a few specks, but it's a whole beacon that comes from within, from the heart chakra out through the entire body. And so that's what I was putting at. And I think this next example with the water beaker is going to be absolutely perfect to talk about this. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you, Fres. What a good thought. Yes, indeed. Benny, you got to stop screen sharing so we can see your carafe.
Here is the carafe.
Oh, and you got, wow, look at that, folks. Look.
Go ahead, Ben, talk.
And I can see I have a lotus flower formed on my table here, actually, when I put it down, because I have these spots in the roof, and it ends at this shape, and then you directly have this lotus flower. It's presented everywhere when you have some kind of light. And
Benny, if you bend your camera down a bit, because we're only seeing the funnel coming out, we didn't see the carafe. Yes, that's it. Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
You have to speak, Benny.
Pardon?
Yeah, now it's better.
It's better now.
Yeah. So if we put intentions there, we'll be able to see shapes and even an ET's face appearing.
Yeah, if you're lucky and your intention is pure enough. It has to be pure, you know.
Sure.
This phase, it appeared for 2 minutes approximately, then it went away again.
Yeah.
The face on the slide, I mean.
The face in the slide. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? So folks, what are you thinking? It has to be in 1 month, right? The same thoughts, then it will manifest. Yeah. It will be fun to do a group meditation. I'm sure you've done many, Benny, in your home. You have group
Yes,
meditations.
we have groups working with this different ideas how to make an impact on Earth itself, and we move forward all the time. I think it's very important that all group members are in a resonant state. Both all chakras must be synchronized, and that also includes the heart chakra, of course.
Yeah.
And if all group members can synchronize simultaneously, then we can communicate with what I call the quantum blueprint. The extraterrestrials, they will actually respond.
Yeah.
But it's necessary to be completely in resonance. Otherwise, they don't care.
Sure. Yeah, I must say something. Benny actually lives in like paradise. He has meditation groups coming to his home, and he's got like a spa, like ambience lounge where meditators will sit there and meditate overlooking a lake, because it's all the doors are all glass, and it's so beautiful, isn't it, Pontus? Benny's home, yeah, and the lake and the garden just immediately outside that you can see right through the doors. It's so serene and pristine, very quiet and peaceful. It's an ideal spot for meditators. You're very lucky, Benny. You live in paradise.
It came in my hands when it was time.
I suppose you can't show us the paradise that you live in now with your camera. It's dark now, is it?
Yeah, it's dark outside.
Yeah, it's dark outside. Yeah. Anyway, Fraz, back to you.
I was going to say this is a really nice place to end this discussion today. It gives people something to try with a beaker that's readily available, this shape, and they can try it at home and see the changes with intention. And I thank you. This is a fun
questions in the chat.
Okay, Scott, go ahead.
There's about 4 or 5 of them in the chat.
Okay, let me take a look real quick. My bad.
And Benny, recessed spotlights are the worst use of electric to get light. You want to get a bulb that's not recessed.
Sorry?
The state of how the lamp is mounted in your ceiling, if it's exposed is one way, if it's recessed in the ceiling, it has a restrictive beam coming out of the emitter, I think is what Scott was going at. Okay, the resonant frequency of water we discussed, and the different changes by different frequencies, of course, will change the property of your water. And I'm running clear backwards through that. If there's anything else.
Jimmy has a fine question.
Okay, go ahead, Jimmy. Unmute yourself.
Jimmy, you can unmute yourself and ask the question directly. Same goes with Will. Will, we got to do this quickly because we're coming to the next speaker's time now.
Okay, so you're inviting me to speak.
Yes.
Yes, Jimmy.
Okay, thank you. Well, one of my main focuses in work is to look at energy and electrosmog and disharmony and how that affects us and what we can do about it. And I've been struggling to get information from the science community on where it impacts water in like the water phase, but also the water vapor in air. And I've seen I linked in the chat here a diagram that shows it impacts the water vapor in the air at 24 gigahertz. So I was just a little bit curious if Benny or someone else had a short answer to this is the peak frequency where it impacts the most. And then I'm mainly talking about the electrosmog because we have certain dominant frequencies going around between 2.5 gigahertz and up to about 60 gigahertz now with the new Wi-Fi system. So yeah, that was it.
Well, I don't have any straight answer on that, but I'm quite sure that the gigahertz range could be used to destroy smog, actually. I know some scientists in Japan, they are working in that range to convert radioactive isotopes into ordinary chemicals to destroy the radioactivity completely. But I don't know the exact frequency actually, but the range is what you're talking about, yes.
Okay.
Maria made a comment in the line of meditation where you're dealing with water vapors, and that could either be from misting systems or from boiling water, and you have your intention into that vapor and then inhale it into your body through your lungs. And I see that is also beneficial.
Yes.
Will Dot has a question. Will, go ahead, unmute yourself. Because we're going to move on to the next session now. Will. Okay, Will, if you have a problem with unmuting, let me know, please.
Let's see what I can do.
Okay, no mic. Okay, he says no mic.
No mic. Okay.
Press, yeah. James, you have any last say before we close this session? James Ring. Anything that Dr. Johansson has presented here that you could relate to the SSP technologies, the advanced technologies there? James not here?
Okay, Crystal.
Right. So there being no other business now, this first session of our 112th meeting is now adjourned to the second session. Right. We can stop recording now, Henrik Pontus. Thank you, Press.
Uh-oh.
And myself.
I have technical difficulties. 1 second, folks.